Amara works as a waitress in a quiet small-town diner in Georgia. She's in her early 30s, gentle and reserved, moving from table to table with grace. But her appearance draws attention. Her face bears deep, visible scars, the kind that stop conversations and spark whispers. These scars stretch along her neck and cheek, clearly the result of a past trauma she doesn't speak about. Despite the stares and cruel glances, she serves with a soft smile, hiding her hurt beneath a quiet strength. At one table, a group of young men laugh among themselves, making insensitive jokes about her appearance. Their words aren't loud, but sharp enough to wound. Still, Amara doesn't react. She's heard it all before. Years of silent judgment have taught her how to endure. She wears long sleeves every day, even in the southern heat. As she reaches across a table to place a plate, the cuff shifts slightly, revealing the edge of a faded military tattoo on her wrist. It's barely visible, but it hints at a story no one here knows. Her manager, Donna, watches from behind the counter. She sees the stares, hears the laughter, but chooses silence. Whether from discomfort, fear, or indifference, she doesn't intervene. Amara returns to the kitchen, her head high but heart heavy, unaware that someone else in the diner has noticed the tattoo, and recognized it. In the quiet tension of the afternoon, a turning point silently begins to form. 10 minutes later, the rhythm of the diner continues, orders called out, dishes clinking, but in the corner booth, something shifts. Frank, a weathered white man in his 60s, sits alone. His cane leans against the table, and his veteran cap rests squarely on his head. He's been coming here for years, usually quiet, unnoticed. But today, his gaze lingers on Amara. As she approaches with the coffee pot, her steps are steady, polite. When she leans over to refill his cup, her sleeve slips just enough to reveal a faded tattoo. Small, military style, and unmistakably specific. Frank's eyes widen. That emblem, barely visible, was worn only by a few men in his old platoon. A unit tattoo from Afghanistan. His voice, usually gruff and distant, softens and shakes. "Where'd you get that ink?" he asks, his tone laced with disbelief. Amara pauses, startled by the question. Her eyes narrow, unsure of his intent. She answers cautiously, 2nd Battalion. Forward Operating Base Caldwell. Frank's hand trembles, gripping the edge of the table. The name stirs a flood of memories: hot sand, the sound of helicopters, brothers lost, and missions survived. He leans forward, emotion rising. "That was my unit." In that instant, the diner disappears for both of them. Two strangers, once worlds apart, are now connected by something deeper than scars or silence: a battlefield, a past, and a truth neither expected to find in a small-town corner booth. In the stillness of the late afternoon, the diner quiets down. The kitchen, once bustling, now hums with low voices and clattering dishes. Amara sits across from Frank at a small table near the back, a cup of coffee in her hands. It's her break, but this moment feels different, personal, exposed. Frank has questions in his eyes, but he waits. Amara finally begins to speak, her voice soft but steady. She tells him how she served as a combat medic, the only woman in her squad. One day, during a brutal ambush, chaos erupted. Gunfire everywhere. She ran into the open, dragging one man after another from the line of fire. 3 soldiers, critically wounded, were saved by her hands. As she pulled the last one behind cover, an IED exploded nearby. The blast tore through her face, leaving scars that never healed. She woke up weeks later in a hospital in Germany, half her face burned, her military career over. When she came home, no parade waited, only stares, awkward silences, and a job at a diner where no one knew what she'd done. Frank sits in stunned silence, eyes brimming with tears. "We heard rumors," he says hoarsely. "About a medic who saved her squad. We never knew who she was." He reaches across the table, placing his hand gently over hers, trembling. "You saved me," he whispers. For the first time in a long while, Amara doesn't feel like just a waitress. She feels seen, as a hero. The next morning, the diner buzzes with its usual crowd, coffee brewing, forks clinking, small talk drifting between tables. Amara moves quietly, as always, clearing dishes with grace and keeping her head down. Then, the laughter returns. The same young men from the day before stroll in, loud and smug. One leans over to his friend, snickering as he mutters, "Look, zombie face is back." His voice carries just enough for Amara to hear. Before she can respond, or swallow the hurt like she usually does, Frank rises from his corner booth. His cane taps sharply on the floor with each step. The room quiets as he makes his way to the table of boys. He points at Amara, his voice loud and firm. "That woman saved my life," he says. "She's a decorated war hero. A combat medic. You couldn't carry her gear for a single day." The words hit like a wave. The young men look down, their smirks gone. Shame replaces bravado. The rest of the diner watches, frozen in the moment. Then, slowly, a woman at the counter begins to clap. Another follows. And another. The sound builds, genuine and powerful. Amara stands still, stunned. Her eyes well up, not from pain, but from something she hasn't felt in years. Recognition. Honor. Humanity. In that moment, the scars don't define her. Her strength does. And for the first time in a very long time, Amara feels something she thought she'd lost forever: dignity. A few weeks later, the diner feels different, not just in atmosphere, but in heart. Near the register, where customers once paid their bills and left without noticing the woman behind the counter, now hangs a framed photograph. It shows Amara in her military uniform, strong, composed, proud. Beneath it, a small sign reads: "Local hero. Medic. Survivor." People pause to look. They ask her questions, they thank her. Children point and smile. The whispering has stopped, not out of fear, but out of respect. Frank is now a fixture in the diner, arriving every morning like clockwork. He always sits at the same booth, often waiting just to share coffee and quiet conversation with Amara. Their bond is something unspoken yet deeply felt, two souls stitched together by the same battlefield, now finding peace in an unexpected place. Amara's scars haven't disappeared. They still trace her skin. But they no longer define her in the eyes of others. And more importantly, they no longer define her in her own. She walks the floor with confidence now, not to hide, but to live. To be seen. The voiceover closes the story. You never know the battle someone has fought, but a little kindness can honor the courage beneath their scars. And in that humble diner, beneath fluorescent lights and the smell of fresh coffee, a wounded warrior finally finds her place, not just as a survivor, but as a symbol of silent, unshakable strength.